Hello everyone, welcome. It's Wednesday, June 10th, and tonight we're going to pop the champagne. That's not over yet, so we're going to stop with the wine videos for a while, but at least it's the second phase 2 in New York. And, it's not total celebration because everything's not behind us, but so we're not going to do a vintage champagne. We're going to do Moet Chandon, just a non-vintage champagne. Champagnes are done certain ways. Vintage champagnes are only produced when they get an exceptional year. Now, in the 80s and 90s, there were some great years, even 2000s. The weather's been good, maybe global warm, whatever, but they've been lucky because the Champagne region, you can get some cold winters, and it's up the Champagne region's up in the where you get frost, and it's the colder part of France. So it's like where we had the Chablis just right next to it. You have it's cold weather region, and they're made from 3 grapes mostly. You get the Blancs. The Blanc de Blanc is usually made of a Chardonnay, but you'll also get champagnes that are made of mostly Pinot Noir. But the normal champagnes are made from 3 grapes. Okay, they're made from Pinot Noir, a Chardonnay, and a Pinot Meunier. Now, this is Moet Chandon is one of the oldest. Moet Chandon is from 1743. Okay, now they have 29,000 acres. They're owned by Louis Vuitton. They were bought out by Hennessy. 90s. They actually produce a wine in Argentina now. They also produce one in California. Now, Champagne is the one region where you can only call it champagnes, and everyone respected it up except for us because we weren't invited, so we would produce California wines and call them champagnes. We're the only one major wine producing country in the world. Did everybody else, was invited to the party, so they lived by the rules. Now, you do get some good champagnes lately made out of Italy's got some, but nothing compares to, you need that chalky soil. I mean, everyone in the world tries to do it. No one can do it. Now, in other countries, they've been able to make great cabs. They've make great, like Antinori can face off against his. But no one has ever been able to come close to that Champagne region. It's just special soil with special climate, and the terroir. Now, this here, okay, the Champagne is the different. I had a wine course back in the mid '80s, and we did a blind tasting on champagnes, and we did it from the shelf champagnes, from the Corbels, right up to Dom Perignones, right, and Cristals. My favorite champagne is Veuve Clicquot. It's got a little bit, it's tart, but a little bit of sweetness. Now, Dom Perignon, and we did 100 people in this course, and it was a very high grade course. It was an expensive course, and you had people who understood wines in it. It wasn't a novice course, and the Dom Perignon finished below the top half, because it's a Brut. You got to like the taste. It's a little more bitter. It's a little tighter. Then it's a bigger bubble, which we'll call a softer bubble. All the bubbles are different, and they're all different grapes. Because like a Blanc de Blanc will be made, like there's 13 villages up in a 12-mile stretch that make some of the best Blanc de Blancs. But a vintage champagne you'll pay a lot of money for. Okay, a vintage champagne could be $80 to $300 a bottle. Now champagnes, right now, no one's drinking champagne. Champagne sales are down because because what's going on in the world and this pandemic. Champagne sales in France are down 80%. So that's why we're not even doing a vintage tonight. Okay, we're doing this. Now the best wines that most Americans are familiar with, the good ones, is a Laurent Perrier, Piper Heischnick, Mums, Dom Perignon, Louis Jardin de Cristal, Veuve Clicquot, Perrier Jouet. Okay, and they'll all do vintage champagnes. But if they're not a vintage champagne, a non-vintage champagne, a vintage champagne has to be the champagne has to come from that year. Okay, champagne has to come from that year, and they only do it as it's an exceptional year. Non-vintage champagnes, they can take champagnes and move them around from year to year. Now, champagnes are done, the fermentation is different too. See, now, the fermentation, they have a first fermentation and a second fermentation. First fermentation's done, okay, and then they ferment and they put it in the bottle after the vats. And then when they put it in the bottle, they put a temporary cap on it. Okay, they take the bottle, they turn it over like this, they freeze the neck. Okay, they pull off the temporary cap, and then they have lees in it. And when they put the lees in it, they pull the lees out after the second, when they freeze it, it comes out. They reverse the bottle. Okay, it's a very expensive way to do it, and that's how they do it in France with the vintage champagnes. And then what they'll do is they'll add a little sugar or crystallized sugar to the top, recap it. Okay, now the cap and also the cork on the champagne is very, very expensive. It's more expensive than the labeling, the bottling it, not the processing, but it is. Now this is Moet Chandon, who also owns Dom Perignon. And Dom Perignon is named after a monk, and he invented the first cork. Okay, and they did their first wine in 1921, the first Dom Perignon, and they didn't sell it till 26. See, a vintage champagne has to lay for 3 years. Non-vintage champagne, 15 months. Vintage champagne, 3 years. It has to have a certain amount of lees. It can't be. It's the champagne. The French are very fussy, and they keep the yardstick high, but that's why they get the best. Okay, they have the best champagnes. Now, when you open a champagne bottle, okay, you should always have a rag. And the reason why you'll see a maitre put a rag around a champagne bottle, he cools the temperature of the bottle inside the bottle to the air outside. Okay, and you should always hold the bottle away and on an angle. Now that I tipped this upside down, showing you how, watch the thing pop and pour all over my camera. Now, they produce 28 million bottles a year of just this, the Brut. Okay, this is their number one. This was their number one, the Imperial Brut. Okay, and they did their first vintage in 1842. Okay, and they renamed it Moet Chandon. Originally it was Moet, and then they renamed it in 1833. They named it Moet Chandon. See, now you turn the bottle. Let's see if this works. Okay, turn on the bottle. See, that's how you want to do it. Okay. Now, years ago, they used to worry with the corks. They put this around because corks used to pop out of the bottles before Dom Perignon. He was a monk. Did the cork with the muzzle because, now the wine champagne glasses you can see three ways. This will be a long flute. Okay. This one came from the Harvest. They gave you this for the champagne in 2000. The millennial. I went there for dinner with the kids and my wife. And then they also have the 1950s. And if you want to do it, movies sometimes they drink out of the slipper. So however you want to do it. Now they also, you can, some people like, they drink ice over champagne. People say it's wrong. Moet in 2010 came out with a nice champagne to be poured over ice because of the bubbles. Okay. And you can smell the sweetness. This is golden yellow. Okay. Nice. It's tart. It's good. Now let me show you if you can see this. You see this cork here? Let me figure out how I can do this with that thing. This part from here to here is one color. Okay? That little piece of that cork costs more than the rest of the whole cork. This middle cork costs more than this cork. And this top piece of this cork costs more than this whole bottle, the glass bottle. Okay? Because it's pressurized. When it puts in there, this holds everything. So that little eighth of an inch of a cork is a very expensive cork. Okay? And when you get a vintage champagne, because these champagnes, 3 to 5 years, that's it. Non-vintage, 6 years, And if it's a a real vintage champagne, a good one, you know, they're finding they can go 15, 20, 30. Some guys pop champagnes and they're still good. And champagnes, you know what champagnes go with? Chinese food. I'm telling you, Asian food with the bubble, fish, soft cheese, dark cheese. Very, very refreshing. You know, it's got the effervescence. That's why when they put the bottle and they recork it and they send it, that effervescence works its way in the bottle. So they sit there for 3 years, and that yeast works its way up and creates in the bottle. It's nice. It's nice. Well, let me tell you something. I thought we would have been doing this earlier than we're doing it, but at least we're doing it, you know. And let's hope things get better. I might do one a week or two a week, you know, these wine things, but got to give the head a little. I got to slow down a little. 71 of these things. I haven't gained any weight. It's because I don't drink all the bottle, just most of the bottle. Yep. So, now, when they do a Brut, okay, there's the Brut, that's less than 12 grams of sugar per liter. The extra Brut is less than 6. 12 to 17 in the Brut, less than 12 in the Brut, and then I think it's 12 to 17 in the extra dry. And then in the sec, it's 17 to 32. So you put the sugar crystals back in there just before the second fermentation. So listen, God bless, good night, and we want to thank everybody, you know, we said it from the beginning, the frontline workers, anybody walking through those hospital doors, administration, orderlies, help, you know, doctors, nurses, your fire department, your police departments answering these calls. How about the mailman delivering mail every day? You know, we got people don't even want to pick up their mail. This person's going door to door delivering their mail every day. You know, the guy dropping meat off in the stores. We got to be thankful for this nation, that we are such a strong nation and we're a caring people. And listen, God bless. Take care, and I'll surprise you maybe one of these days with another one. Take care. Good night.